Hello everyone. Welcome to today's video where we're going to be looking at 8 useful English expressions for legal professionals. And I'm going to be sharing my screen, going through it all. So do grab a pen and paper to take a look at some of these expressions. They are all going to be phrasal verbs, something that comes up a lot in English, is really important. If you don't know what a phrasal verb is, it is usually composed of 2 or 3 parts, mainly a verb, the infinitive verb, with a preposition or another kind of particle. An example of a phrasal verb could be to get up in the morning. I get up in the morning. And sometimes these phrasal verbs don't always have a very apparent or obvious meaning. So that's why they are really important to learn, and they're very good for advanced learners. And they just come up all the time. Even as a native English speaker, I'm still learning more phrasal verbs that I hear in TV and movies. So yeah, there you go. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, there is something to download. I'm going to leave it in the details. A PDF guide to go along with this video, which will feature all of the 8 expressions. So if you don't have time to write these down, don't worry. You can always go back to the recording, or you can download this PDF to accompany the video. Um, these expressions are also based on a famous legal case from last year. If you remember, in 2022, between April and June in 2022, it was the case Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. It was a huge case, internationally, garnered a lot of news coverage, and in the US, all of the many of the court cases are in the public domain, are recorded, and are fit then for public consumption and analysis. So yeah, it definitely uh, in what promoted a lot of dialogue and a lot of talk about this case. So, without further ado, let me share my screen and show you. I'm going to show you. Let me share my screen. Um, Court case with phrasal verbs. Um, yeah. Okay. Do you see that? Okay. So let me just. So you see on the screen the the text there. So as I said, the case Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, it was a defamation trial. And this is a text that comes from the news that I found, and it just demonstrates how much phrasal verbs are used, in general, and they can be usually phrasal verbs are seen as informal, but they can be formal in some cases, as we can see here. So these are all very useful for legal English to talk about court cases, to talk about decisions being made, but also in general. You can definitely use it in general if you are interested in legal matters, if you're just interested in increasing your knowledge of different English expressions. You're very welcome to follow along as well. So I'm going to read this, and then I will show you the 4 phrasal verbs, the 4 expressions in this text, and there will be another one after. So, after the world heard the final argument from both sides, the jury was in charge of weighing up the truth. Amber Heard's legal team summed up their defense for the court. The jury in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial ruled in favor of Johnny Depp, finding that a Washington Post editorial she wrote defamed her former husband. Amber Heard will need to pay $10.35 million in damages to Depp, but her legal team states that she absolutely cannot pay up the full amount. Did you notice the phrasal verbs in there? Like what I was saying, it is a verb plus preposition, so they've got 2 parts. So let's see them highlighted there. So yeah, the first one we have is weigh up, weighing up the truth. The second one we have is sum up, So two of them with the same preposition up, but different verbs. And then we have to rule in favor of, that's number three. And then to pay up. So actually, there are three of them have up as their preposition, but totally different meanings with different verbs. So we're going to look at those four expressions now, these not prepositions, these phrasal verbs. We'll then look at another text and go into detail on that. So let's look at the first one, which is weigh up. So the example again, after the world heard the final arguments from both sides, the jury was in charge of weighing up the truth. So if you think of to weigh something, it's to get the weight of something, and you have this idea of a balance, in old-fashioned weighing of something, not an electric balance now like we have now, but you have what is the weight? How can we weigh up something? So if you can think of this idea of a weight and weighing up something, it's that idea of balancing. And I think that was basically the definition, to balance all of the evidence, to balance it all, to weigh up all of it. And so I'm giving you some examples here. The jury was in charge of weighing up the truth, and we weighed up the pros and cons before making a decision. This can be used in legal English, but also just commonly in day to day. So I'd love to hear an example in the comments, in the chat. If I can, I will correct you either now or later. So do put your example sentence in the chat. This is a great way for you to participate and to, it's not just about getting that knowledge, getting those definitions. Without, if you just get that information, you're not going to actually remember it. You need to apply this knowledge for you to understand it, to implement this knowledge. Yeah, so that would be good to make your own example sentence in the comments. So yeah, I'm giving you a bit of time now as I chat along, but I think you could always come back and pause the video and think of these example sentences. So yeah, that's the first one, to weigh up. The second one we have another up one, isn't it? So it's to sum up. Now this one might be a bit more familiar to you. I think it's quite a common one. Amber Heard's legal team summed up their defense for the court. If you know the noun summary or even the verb to summarize, it comes from the same kind of idea. An account, how can I give another synonym for summary or sum up? Let me have a look at the definition here. What does it say? To give the main point of something in a few words. Yeah, so summary, to sum up something. This is very important in any kind of legal case or anything really that requires a lot of information and analysis. To have a summary and to sum up something is important. Even in meetings, we can say, like I have the example sentence here. Well, I'll read both of them. So the first one is Amber Heard's legal team summed up their defense for the court. And the second in relation to meetings, and it could be any professional meeting, legal English or otherwise. To finish the meeting, we summed up all the key points. So, are you thinking of your own example sentence here? Maybe you could write it in the chat and we could see your example sentence and see if it's correct. You can use sum up. So, in some phrasal verbs, a lot of them actually, they can be broken up into pieces. So, what I mean by that is you can say to sum up a point or to sum the point up. So the object can be after the sum up, or it can be, you can break sum and up and you can put the object in the middle. To sum the point up, to sum it up, sum up it, or to sum it up. We don't have that with every single phrasal verb. It's not always possible, but to sum up, it's definitely possible. To weigh up as well, just to go back to that one, to weigh something up, to weigh up something, it works as well. So you can put that object in between weigh and up. Weigh up, sum up. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So the next one, the jury in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial has ruled in favor of Johnny Depp, finding that a Washington Post editorial she wrote defamed her former husband. To rule in favor of, this is a great one for legal English, especially in court cases. And you can say to rule in favor of or to find in favor of. It's really the same thing, to make a judicial decision. This is a really formal and very much legal English term because it's really one of these legal judiciary decisions. So it's very particular and yeah, I think it's a great one to use, much stronger than saying um, made a decision to rule in favor of or to find in favor of. To decide as well is not bad. You could say to decide if you find this difficult, but it's worth using. It's worth using. It will sound very natural, very good. So the examples, they have ruled in favor of Johnny Depp, and the court has found in favor of the defense in this case. Okay. I notice as well that my spelling of favor and favor here, there's a US spelling with no U, and this is the British spelling with the U. So I will admit that I wrote this quite a while ago, so I don't know why I did different spellings here. But I think just to confuse you maybe, but I think it's good to just look at that and to see the 2 spellings. Both of these are correct, but obviously you should just choose one. You should choose to use British or American and just stick with that. There's no difference whether you want to use British or whether you want to use American. It depends obviously if you are um related or linked more with one country, you need to study there or something like that. It would be good to use that the spelling of that country. So it's up to you which one you want to use. Okay, now let's go on to number 4. And we have pay up, another up one. Her legal team states that she absolutely cannot pay up the full amount. Pay up. So pay up means that pay money that you owe to someone in full. So an example, well, the first one we've already had, and the second one you need to pay up or we will take you to court. So when you have money to owe, we ask you to pay up in full. Yeah, or even just to pay up, which means to pay in full. So this is quite formal. This can be used in legal English, but also business English, something like that in relation to money being owed. Okay, so I hope those first four were okay for you. Do put your example, continue to put those example sentences in the chat. I'd love to see them. It's always good to practice, to get feedback, and to also practice right away when you get some new information, new expressions. Yeah. So let's go on to the next 4 expressions, which are in this text. And this is actually a quote from Amber Heard herself. And it's really interesting to see it and to see how many phrasal verbs she uses here. You know, instead of using phrasal verbs, often you will have kind of the Latin words. So European speakers are going to be much more familiar with these kind of Latin words, but they can sound a little bit formal and sometimes old-fashioned. So that's why it's great to use phrasal verbs. So let's read it. The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband, Heard said. I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. It's a setback. It sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly humiliated. It sets back the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously, she said. Interesting. So let's have a look at these 4. And the first one is to stand up to. The mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to that disproportionate power, influence, and sway of Amber Heard's ex-husband. So to stand up to is to defend yourself against a powerful person or organization when they treat you unfairly. I think stand up to is definitely something you'll see in the news, in now different videos and documentaries when we talk about discrimination, racism, things like that. Um, and the religious, sorry, I have to go back. I just clicked the button by mistake. Um, what do I need to do now? I need to go back. Sorry about that. We go 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 14. Okay, to stand up to. Here we go. So to stand up to. Um, so here is an example. The religious minority stood up to the discrimination they received from the media. So they stood up to to the media. You could even say they stood up to the media and the discrimination that they received from them. So this minority is defending themselves against the media who are treating them unfairly, who are discriminating against them. So yeah, stand up to is one of these ones that you'll hear a lot in human rights. Yeah, talking about the treatment of humans and advocacy and campaigning for their rights. So that is stand up to. That's number five, expression number five. And number six is interesting because we have it as two different forms. We've got it's a setback and it sets back the clock. So we've got here a noun version and a verb version of the same thing, which means to delay or impede the progress of someone or something. So an example here is Sally had been recovering well from her operation, but yesterday she experienced a setback. So a setback in her recovery, something that delayed her recovery from her operation. The second one, the challenge will set back the project start date a few weeks. So let me read that again because I didn't read that very well. The challenge will set back the project start date a few weeks. So yeah, so this idea of this challenge that we have just seen, it's setting back the project start date by a few weeks. So it's delayed. It's basically delaying the start date of the project, this particular challenge. So again, I'd love to hear that your examples in the comments. Um, yeah, to set back. I don't know if I want to confuse you and give you an anecdote, but what I hear sometimes a lot, people talk about, uh, I don't know, being an entrepreneur, which I am, or doing something in your career. You know, you often face setbacks. So not like a failure. It's a little bit more positive than a failure, but it's a setback. It's something that's delaying your progress. And they talk about it being this isn't a setback, it's a set up. And to set something up is something that has been designed especially for you. So a setup is to set up a business. So maybe the fact that I what that this technology, I don't know, Instagram or LinkedIn, um, or my website had some technical difficulty for a week. It's not a setback in my progress for my success in a business, but it's actually set up because it's something that God or somebody, um, this was exactly what I needed because in some way it helped me. Yeah, in some way it helped me. Now I think that's way too confusing. I don't know if I should have introduced that other phrasal verb set up, but just to let you know that there's just a lot of phrasal verbs that are very, very similar, set back and set up, and they are completely different in meaning. So when you're learning these phrasal verbs, really pay attention to the whole part, not just the verb, not just the preposition. It's really one expression that you need to learn together. Um, and I think sometimes maybe you can find different ways to learn it. You can try to think of SB, set back, or think of back, going back. I think as well this kind of meaning is quite apparent. To go back is to regress and to usually not so positive. To set back, it is that idea of a delay. So some of these meanings of phrasal verbs can be more easy to understand than others. Okay, so moving on to the last few. So it sets back the clock at a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly humiliated. To spoke up. To speak up means to express your opinion and to speak louder. So many women have spoken up about this gender equality inequality. And please speak up. I can't hear you. So up, when you put the volume up, this idea of speaking up, speaking louder and voicing your opinion. So speaking up. And then speaking out, that's the next one, and it's the very last one. Very similar. Let's have a look at the exact meaning. To speak out means to voice your opinion about something, especially in relation to a legal matter or injustice. So it's a bit different to speak up. It's not just about expressing your opinion, but it's expressing your opinion about some injustice. So we can use social media to speak out about the human rights abuses in that country, to speak out about something. Okay, so that is all. These are all the 8 legal expressions, these English expressions that are great for legal professionals, for professional life in general. Some can definitely be used in a more general sense. Speak out is you can be used generally, but it's often used to talk about injustice, so human rights, activism, advocacy, which is related to law, but also politics and other kind and being a politician, government, that kind of thing. Um, so I'm just going to go back over. So speak out. Maybe if I go, I'm going to go back. Um, So yeah, let's just go just to revise the first four. Way up. So way up can be used in legal English, but also in general. Sum up, it can also be used generally. Rule in favor of is very specific for legal English, so I wouldn't use that otherwise. And pay up can be used in general and in legal English, especially in relation to money. Okay, and then the other four. In that statement by Amber Heard herself, we had four more. And these ones are much more about injustice. And they're probably, yeah, they're kind of more abstract in a way. So stand up to some kind of unjust power, and then a setback is some kind of delay in your progress. And then speak up and speak out are to speak your opinion, and especially about injustice for speak out. So finally, that is it. So if you do have any more example sentences, just leave them there in the comments. I'll get back to you if I can. After maybe the recording, you can put it there too, and I'll try to comment and give you some tips if there's anything that needs to be corrected. Don't forget that I do have that PDF to download, and I'm going to be continuing this series, this Confident English for Legal Professionals series, over the next coming months, and also going to be having a live workshop that will be available in the coming weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out on my website, and you can also look at my services there for legal professionals, my small mini service, and my longer program, my longer accelerator program, which is 12 weeks, and the mini coaching experience um, is just under 21 days, but it will really help you get started with your English communication skills, boosting your English fluency as a legal professional. So do check that out as well. And thank you so much for joining me today. And I will talk to you. And I'm going to stop sharing this, and I will talk to you in the next video.